The most influential people in your life have never asked you for anything. They don't beg, they don't pressure, they don't argue, and yet decisions keep tilting their way. Doors open before they reach them. People agree with them before the sentence finishes. The room reorganizes itself around their preferences, and nobody can quite say why. You assume they're lucky. You assume they're charming. They are neither. They've understood something. Robert Greene repeatedly dissects through the study of power and human nature. The loudest form of influence announces itself and gets resisted, while the most effective form convinces its target the decision was theirs all along. The textbooks call this persuasion. The textbooks are incomplete. Persuasion is what you do when you want someone to agree with you. What we are about to dissect is something subtler, the art of encouraging someone to act without ever directly asking. In 1966, a psychologist named Jack Bream published a small paper that quietly reshaped the field of social psychology. He gave a group of children 4 toys and asked them to rate which one they liked best. Then, when the children weren't looking, he placed the 3rd favorite toy behind a transparent barrier, visible but unreachable. When the children were asked to rate the toys again, something strange happened. The toy behind the barrier, the one they had previously ranked 3rd, now ranked 1st. Nothing about the toy had changed. What had changed was its availability. Bream called this psychological reactance. The moment a freedom is threatened, the moment something becomes restricted or unavailable, the human mind reorients to want it more. This is the engine that powers everything we are about to dissect. Every reversal, every seed planted, every favor borrowed, every carefully framed weakness. They all run on the same principle Bream uncovered behind that transparent barrier. People do not move when they are pushed. They move when they believe they are choosing. Reversal 1, the forbidden door. There is a reason every culture in history has a story about a locked room. Pandora's box, Bluebeard's chamber, the forbidden fruit, the curse that must not be uttered, the name that must not be spoken. Across continents and centuries, the human mind generates the same myth, that the most desirable thing in the world is the thing you are explicitly told not to touch. This is not coincidence. This is architecture. When you tell someone what to do, you are competing with their ego. Their ego will resist for the simple reason that compliance feels like submission, even if your suggestion is correct, even if it serves their interest, even if they would have arrived at it on their own. The moment you frame it as a directive, their nervous system tags it as a threat to autonomy. In 1972, 3 researchers, Driscoll, Davis, and Lipitz, published one of the most quietly revealing findings in relationship psychology. They surveyed 140 couples and discovered that the strength of romantic attachment correlated almost perfectly with the level of perceived parental interference. The more the parents tried to break them up, the deeper the couple fell in love. They named it the Romeo and Juliet effect. Sit with what this means. The teenager whose parents forbid the relationship doesn't fall in love because the partner is irresistible. They fall in love because their freedom is being threatened. The romance becomes the vehicle for the rebellion. Robert Greene repeatedly highlights this principle through examples of power, desire, and scarcity. What is taken from people often becomes more valuable than what is freely available. The mind doesn't reach for what it has, it reaches for what it has been denied. The operator who knows this stops asking. He stops persuading. He stops convincing. He plants the suggestion that the desired outcome is unavailable, reserved for someone else, risky, inappropriate, probably more than the target can handle. He frames the door as locked, and the moment he does, his target's hand begins reaching for the handle. A negotiator who wants you to take the deal will tell you the deal might not be for you. A leader who wants the team to commit will tell Them the project is probably too ambitious for this group. A romantic interest who wants you to pursue them will subtly imply they are out of your league and watch your effort multiply overnight. The directive triggers resistance. The forbidden door triggers fascination. This is the first reversal. You stop pushing what you want and start pulling them toward it by suggesting they cannot have it. But this only works if the target trusts the frame. If they sense theater, if the forbidden door looks too convenient, too rehearsed, the whole architecture collapses, which is why the second reversal is even quieter than the first. It doesn't ask the target to want anything. It asks them to give you something. Reversal 2, the borrowed favor. In 1736, Benjamin Franklin found himself in the Pennsylvania Assembly serving alongside a man who openly disliked him. The man was wealthy, articulate, influential, and his hostility toward Franklin poisoned every legislative session. Franklin needed his cooperation to pass legislation. Conventional wisdom would have demanded he flatter the man, perform some elaborate courtship of friendship, or do him favors until the hostility softened. Franklin did the opposite. He wrote the man a letter, not asking for political support, not offering a favor. He asked instead if he could borrow a rare book from the man's private library, just a book. The man, surprised, sent the book over. Franklin returned it a week later with a short note of thanks. From that moment forward, the man, the same one who had spent years trying to undermine Franklin, became one of his closest political allies. Franklin wrote in his autobiography that he had stumbled onto a principle. He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged. In 1969, two psychologists named Jecker and Landy ran the experiment that confirmed it. They had participants win money in a contrived task. Then a researcher approached one group and asked them, as a personal favor, to return the money, claiming he had paid it out of his own pocket. A second group was simply allowed to keep their winnings. When asked afterward how much they liked the researcher, the group that had been asked for the favor liked him significantly more. The act of giving had created the affection, not the other way around. This is the Ben Franklin effect, and it inverts everything you have been told about how relationships are built. The conventional model says, do something nice for someone, and they will like you. The actual model is the reverse. Get someone to do something for you, even something trivial, and the act of giving will manufacture warmth where none existed. The mechanism is cognitive dissonance. The mind cannot tolerate the contradiction of I dislike this person combined with I just helped this person. One belief has to bend, and because the action is already done, the help has already been given. The only belief left to revise is the dislike. The brain, in service of internal consistency, rewrites the emotional record. I must have helped him because on some level I respect him. I must respect him because on some level he deserves it. The target ends up persuading themselves of your worth using their own behavior as evidence. The operational principle is remarkably simple. If you want someone to like you, do not chase their approval. Ask for a small, harmless favor. A book, an opinion, a recommendation, a moment of advice on something you've been wrestling with. Make sure the request is something they can grant easily. Make sure they grant it. Then thank them once sincerely and never bring it up again. Watch what happens over the next month. The relationship changes character. The person who was indifferent or hostile begins to soften. They start treating you with the warmth they would extend to someone they have invested in, because they have invested in you, and the human mind protects its investments by retroactively justifying them. Notice the inversion. You did not give them anything. They gave you something, and in giving they bought into you. This is what Robert Greene repeatedly points toward in his analysis of commitment. investment, and influence. Affection generated by external means is fragile. Affection generated by the target's own behavior, by their own action committing them, is structural. But the Ben Franklin effect handles small stakes. What about the larger ones? What about when you need someone to take significant action, to advocate for you, to fund you, or to commit to a direction that requires real effort? For that, you need to perform an even older trick. You need to make them think the idea was theirs. Reversal 3, the stolen idea that was never stolen. Robert Greene, in the 48 Laws of Power, articulates something Machiavelli circled but never fully named. That the highest form of influence is not getting credit for the idea. It is making sure someone else does. The reason is mathematical. People defend what they own, and nothing is owned more fiercely than an idea the person believes they generated. If you tell someone what to do, they evaluate it. If you suggest something to them, they consider it. If they believe they thought of it themselves, if the conclusion arrived in their mind wearing the costume of original insight, they will fight for it. They will defend it against critics. They will refine it. They will execute it with the energy of personal conviction. You have offloaded the entire weight of motivation onto their ego, and the ego is an inexhaustible engine. In July of 1870, Otto von Bismarck wanted conflict with France. He could not initiate it directly. If Prussia was seen as the aggressor, the other European powers would likely intervene against him. He needed France to make the first move. Bismarck did not write speeches. He did not threaten. He did not provoke openly. Instead, he intercepted a diplomatic telegram known to history as the Ems Dispatch, describing a perfectly civil meeting between the Prussian king and the French ambassador. The original telegram was polite, diplomatic, unremarkable. Bismarck edited it. He shortened phrases. He removed softening clauses. He restructured the language until the same content read like a deliberate insult to France. Then he released the edited version to the press. Within days, France declared war on Prussia. Within months, Napoleon III had been captured at Sedan, and the Second French Empire was finished. France believed they were defending their honor. They believed the war was their decision, their righteous response to a Prussian provocation. They never understood that they had walked willingly into a corridor Bismarck had spent months constructing for them. The seed had been planted. France harvested it. The mechanism for installing this kind of belief in someone's mind is older than diplomacy. You create an information environment in which only one conclusion is psychologically comfortable. Then step back and let your target arrive at it through what feels like independent reasoning. You do not say, "You should hire her." You say, "I'm not sure who would be right for this, but the team really seems to respond to her presentations." You do not say, "We should leave this relationship." You say, "I noticed you've seemed lighter on the days you've spent away from him." You do not say, "Invest in this idea." You say, "Strange, 3 different people I respect have mentioned something similar this month." The target's mind is a hungry pattern recognizer. Give it 3 points and it will draw a line. Give it the line and it will resist. Give it the points and it will believe the conclusion was its own. The most remarkable part of this technique is that it leaves no fingerprint. The target cannot trace the decision back to you because from their perspective, the decision was generated internally. They feel intelligent. They feel autonomous. They feel like they saw something the rest of the world missed, and they will protect that feeling and therefore your influence for the rest of their life. But here is where this gets uncomfortable, because if this is true, if people genuinely cannot distinguish between an idea they generated and an idea that was installed in them, a question arises that most viewers will not want to answer. How many of your current beliefs about your life arrived through this same architecture? How many of your goals were planted by someone whose name you no longer remember? How many of your fears were installed by a parent, a teacher, a partner, or an algorithm, and dressed up in the language of your own intuition? You are not just a candidate for these techniques. You are likely already a product of them. This is the part of the analysis where the polite version ends. From here, we move into the reversals that don't just describe how the operator works. They describe how to recognize when one is working on you. Reversal 4, the mask of weakness. When Octavian, the man who would become Augustus, returned to Rome after the assassination of Julius Caesar, he was 19 years old and held no formal title. He had inherited Caesar's name and his political enemies, but none of his legions, none of his offices, none of his command structure. The Senate looked at this thin, sickly young man and saw an opportunity. They would absorb him into the political machinery, use his name and discard him when convenient. What they did not see was that Octavian had studied his adopted father's mistakes with remarkable precision. Julius Caesar had appeared too strong too quickly. He had taken titles, crossed Rubicons, worn the laurel. The Senate had removed him for it on the steps of the Theatre of Pompey. Octavian inverted the entire approach. Every time the Senate offered him power, he refused. Every time they offered him a title, he declined. He gave up extraordinary commands. He returned authority to the Senate. He performed reluctance with such consistency that the Senate, concerned about losing the symbolic stability he provided, began urging him to keep the powers he was publicly trying to surrender. Each refusal made the next offer larger. Each act of restraint made the Senate more determined to keep him in office. By the time he was 35, Octavian held more concentrated authority than any Roman in history, and he had built it by appearing at every step not to want it. The mask of weakness is one of Robert Greene's most underappreciated principles. Throughout his work on power, he repeatedly demonstrates that visible strength attracts resistance, while concealed strength attracts opportunity. Strength visible is strength resisted. Strength concealed is strength permitted. In 1966, the social psychologist Elliot Aronson, working with two collaborators, conducted a study that quantified what most operators already intuited. Subjects listened to recordings of contestants on a quiz show. Some contestants were brilliant, others were average. Some of the brilliant ones in the recording made a small mistake. They spilled coffee on themselves audibly during the interview. The result inverted intuition. The brilliant contestant who also made the small mistake was rated as the most likable of all four versions. More likable than the merely competent. More likable than the perfect performer. Aronson called it the pratfall effect. Excellence, when paired with a small visible flaw, becomes more powerful, not less. The flaw signals safety. It tells the observer that the strong person is not threatening, not competing for status, not going to expose them by comparison. The operator who understands this never displays full capability. He underplays. He occasionally fumbles slightly in domains that don't matter. He admits to small inadequacies that are real but harmless. He lets people feel marginally superior to him so that when the domain does matter, his sudden competence arrives as a pleasant surprise rather than a threatening flex. Octavian did not pretend to be incompetent. He pretended to be reluctant. He performed weakness in a domain where weakness disarmed his rivals while accumulating capability in domains they were not watching. The result was that the Senate handed him the empire and believed they had done so as their own decision to a man who had never openly reached for it. The deepest expression of strength is the willingness to look weaker than you are when it serves a larger purpose. This is what most students of Robert Greene get wrong. They study him as a manual for displaying dominance. He is the opposite. He is a manual for concealing it until the moment it matters. The lion is the part everyone remembers. The fox is the part that wins. Reversal 5, the gifted victory. Queen Victoria had two prime ministers who embodied this principle through completely opposite approaches. William Gladstone was, by almost every measurable standard, the greatest statesman, brilliant, principled, and encyclopedic in his command of policy. He treated the Queen as a partner in governance. He explained policy to her with rigor and detail. He took her seriously as an intellect. She disliked him. Benjamin Disraeli treated her differently. He flattered her with carefully calibrated admiration. He sent her notes describing her judgment as essential, her instincts as extraordinary, and her contributions as decisive. He let her believe the major moves of his government were her ideas, refined slightly by his execution. He made her feel like the most fascinating mind in England, and then, having installed that feeling, asked for whatever he needed, and received it with remarkably little resistance. Victoria once said of the contrast, "Gladstone speaks to me as if I were a public meeting. Disraeli speaks to me as if I am a woman." Translation: Gladstone gave her information. Disraeli gave her victory. The final reversal is this: people do not want to be persuaded. They want to feel like the persuader. They do not want to be educated. They want to feel like the expert. They do not want to be led. They want to feel like the leader who graciously allowed you to walk beside them. When you give someone the feeling that they have outmaneuvered you, that they have caught something subtle, that they have negotiated a concession from you, you have not lost. You have completed the maneuver. The professional negotiator builds the concession into the original ask. The skilled subordinate makes sure the boss feels he discovered the solution. The patient operator inflates the target's sense of victory to the precise point where the target stops, scrutinizing what they have actually given up. You walk out of the room having received what you came for. They walk out feeling like they won. Both of you tell the same story with different protagonists. This is why Disraeli outlasted Gladstone in Victoria's affection despite being his intellectual inferior. Gladstone was performing competence. Disraeli was performing her competence. And the human ego will almost always reward the person who reflects it back at a higher resolution than reality allows. The principle compresses into a sentence Robert Greene could easily have written. The person who insists on credit will get the credit and lose the outcome. The person who surrenders the credit will lose nothing and own the outcome. You will not be remembered for the negotiation. You will not be quoted in the meeting notes. The target will tell the story of how they arrived at the right answer. They will believe it sincerely for the rest of their life. That is the fingerprint of perfect influence. There is no fingerprint at all. The lingering thought, 5 reversals, the forbidden door, the borrowed favor, the stolen idea that was never stolen, the mask of weakness, the gifted victory. They are the operating system Robert Greene describes through history's greatest strategists, and modern psychology has spent centuries quietly confirming. But here is the residue this leaves behind. Every one of these techniques works because the human mind cannot tolerate the feeling of being moved, so it constructs, after the fact, a story in which it moved itself. The story is convincing because the storyteller is the same person being told, which means the most uncomfortable question isn't whether you can use these reversals on others. It is how often, today, this week, this year, you have already been their subject. How many of the doors you reached for were placed in your path? How many of the ideas you defend so passionately were planted quietly by someone who knew exactly what they were doing? How many of the things you call your preferences are the residue of someone else's design? The operator does not announce himself. That is what makes him the operator. The first sign of mastery is not the ability to deploy these mechanisms. It is the ability to feel them deploying on you in real time and to keep your face perfectly still while you decide whether to play along or quietly, without announcement, step out of the corridor someone has built for you. Subscribe if you haven't.